Star Trek 57, M23, take 2.
Star Trek podcast.
Captain, am I correct in assuming that this broker is from your courier days with Mr. Booker?
Yes?
And are President Brillick and Admiral Vance aware that you are planning to pursue him?
You don't miss much, do you?
Only when sleep deprived.
Vance unofficially ordered me to kill two birds with one stone. And I believe this broker is where Book will go to get the isolinium.
I see.
You think I'm too close to this?
I believe there is no one else who could possibly convince Mr. Booker to correct his path. But I do not envy your position should he refuse.
Are you guys ready to start?
I'm ready.
Have you
I already started.
aligned all your
Like always.
you calibrated all your alignments and business?
The mushmouth man met me at the mall.
What were you doing with his mush mouth?
The mushy mouth man made metal at the mall.
Which mall, dude?
Meet the mall, Melvin Mall House. That's my name. No, that's the guy who owns it. Is Melvin Mall House.
Melvin Mallhouse
Yeah.
owns the Mushmouth Man Mall.
Yeah, exactly.
This world you're crafting is a horrific dystopia.
Yeah.
I know, right?
I don't want to experience it either in life or in my imagination.
Yeah, well, it'll slowly form itself in all of our minds, and then it'll become
Too
real.
late. I know.
You keep
it's already
us
happened.
you keep us posted on that.
No doubt.
The seeds have been sown.
As things go along. All right. Welcome to the It's Got Star Trek podcast. This is episode 115 of the It's Got Star Trek podcast. We are returning to our coverage of Discovery. Now, Dan, why did we take a break from covering Discovery Season 4?
We didn't really have a choice in the matter. They made it stop.
Yeah, they just made it stop.
They made it stop.
And why are we returning to
did
the
that.
coverage now?
Because
if they made it stop?
They made it start again.
They made it go.
They made it go.
They made it go. Oh,
The
shit.
pack lid style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jesse grabbed the
didn't-
pack lid, Joe.
I'm
I didn't
smart.
Run, I didn't run with it.
He was dangling out there.
It was like dangling part of my nipple.
You are smart.
So after a brief hiatus,
And I was thinking about that. You know, it's cool. You know, put a break in the middle of your season or whatever. The only issue, which is not a real problem to have, but it was just kind of like came out of nowhere.
your tone of voice makes me think you think it's a real problem.
It's a real problem.
It's like a
I
thing
need
people
a problem.
do. It's kind of weird. Why do you do that?
Well, they did it out of nowhere. They didn't. It seemed haphazard. It seemed unplanned.
It's like who Ozark did that too.
Yeah, but that seemed planned at least. They told you ahead of time that they were going to do that. This they kind of just did it halfway through the season. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to have a hiatus for some reason.
Those jerks.
I agree. It would be nice. This doesn't bother me that much that we don't have all the information all at once. I think it would be better if they put a little bit more information out, because what happens is it just opens the space for all the ridiculous conspiracy theories.
Right.
And Discovery's canceled. They have to rework the entire second half of the season. All this absurd stuff. I no doubt it was a combination, probably, of production issues. It's hard to put these shows together, right?
Because they're always saying that Discovery's canceled. Like
If
you ever Google like Star Trek Discovery, like one of the things that pops up is like, is Discovery canceled? And like somebody's like, Discovery is the worst show ever.
It's the same. It'll be like the same author. It'll be in 2017,
Yeah.
2018, 2019. Every year, it's the same thing. Anyway, it's all bullshit. Who cares?
Totally.
They're back,
They're totally back.
and with
Unstoppable.
one of the shortest episode titles in Star Trek.
I hadn't
think.
noticed that.
Yeah, it's not as. I mean, Q Who
Oh yeah,
is shorter.
that's short.
It's got to be a couple other. What about? There's definitely some other short ones. I'm thinking. I'm not gonna start thinking. I'm like, let me.
I can't think of one shorter than Q Who.
There are.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because that is
It's
five.
driving me
that's-
fucking nuts that I
that's-
can't remember them.
That's 6 characters.
gone blank.
6 characters.
I've gone blank on them. I think there are a couple of like one character. Or
Cupid.
two. Cupid. That's another
But that's
one.
not the whole title.
That is the whole title.
No, it's not.
Hyphen Pid. I don't know if you count hyphen as a character.
It does count. Spaces count as characters, bro.
Oh,
What about hyphens?
Yes, that's a character. If a
Oh,
space
space
is
is
a char-
okay. Okay, you're counting
Are you-
spaces.
you thought I meant like the universe is
dude.
is a character in our giant
It's the
cosmic
space
story.
between molecules.
It's the story in our
In our
you got me-
lights.
You got me thinking about molecules.
Regardless,
Like,
the fact that
broke
this
my
time, the
concent-
fact
you
that
broke
this-
my concentration.
Look.
Sunk your
You're right. Cupid is just the name of the episode.
Look, the fact that this is a short title, I regret bringing it up because it is irrelevant.
We made a long little sequence out of it.
It is irrelevant to the quality or lack thereof of the episode.
Our sequence was longer than the title. That doesn't even make any sense, right? When people say stuff like that.
What?
The sequence, it's just like our sequence
Well,
was
if we
even
keep
longer
talking
than the
about-
title. It's like that's not comparable. You also think it's weird when people say 3 weeks, more like 3 years. You know, when they do that thing, it's like, why do you pick 3 just because it's the same number? Is that supposed to make it more effective?
It's because it's the number of pips on Riker's
No, okay, then
uniform.
pretend they said
Cause and effect.
72
Cause and effect.
72 hours.
3 pips.
What if 72 hours? What more like 72 months? See, that's stupid because
No, so that I agree with that.
because 72
the
hours
other
makes
madness you were talking about, I don't know.
72 hours is 3 days. That makes sense. But then they add like, well, I'm going to change
Madness.
days, minutes, hours to 72 hours means 3 days. And if I'm going to change hours to months,
All right.
and that's going to make it more effective because it's the same number.
Please-
but it doesn't mean the same thing.
Please, I'd like the audience to write in. Let us know if
Is
you
that a
be-
Diet Dr. Pepper or a caffeine-free?
Let us know.
Caffeine free. Get the fuck out of here.
Write into it, feedback at isgotstartrek.com and let us know if you would be willing to subscribe to a Patreon if Dan makes a podcast just called It's Not Comparable. Where he explains he takes things that are not comparable.
You can't do that.
and explains
doesn't
why
work like
why his position is that these two things are not comparable.
Which, ironically, I would end up having to compare them as a result because, to tell you why they're not comparable.
Yeah. I mean, that sort of goes without saying.
Yeah, I was just pointing out the irony.
All right. So Star Trek. This is Star Trek that we're talking about. All in. What quick round of opinions. Initial thoughts. What do you think?
It's fun.
Yeah. This is a fun one.
It's fun.
I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I did too. I thought
It's
it
a
was
nice
fun.
bring you back to Discovery kind of episode.
It was bringing back to Discovery, but also all the off-world business.
Yeah, the off-world
Yeah.
stuff was pretty
It's
awesome.
a funny little world with some aliens and
I remember I was
space creeps and stuff.
yeah, the space creeps, man. So I remember one episode. There was this.
Awasakan.
They were on Trill, and I was kind of giving a hard time to the special effect of this like fish that was kind of floating out of the water.
Right,
Yeah, I remember.
And I want to reiterate that I thought that
You were given a hard time.
I was giving
I
a
believe
hard.
Jesse and I were cool with it.
Yeah, and I wanted to reiterate that I thought it was interesting and cool, but at the same time, it just didn't look like it didn't fit with the background as well. Something about it stood out in a weird way to me, even though it did look cool. And I didn't dislike it. It was just kind of like, it's kind of weird and jarring. But that weird fucking dino hippo snake fish. You know that part when they went to the Karma police or the Karma
You mean to the
Karma Hotel?
Karma barge?
Karma.
Oh.
You mean the holographic sea dragon?
Yeah. But it looked like it had a hippo face.
Did it look like it had a
To me,
face?
it looked like it had a hippo face. It was like a dragopotamus.
Okay, I get it.
The Karma barge.
You came up with that thought,
So I
and
thought
you worked backwards from it.
yes. So when they go to that on that cool future shuttle, they had a
Yes.
future shuttle.
Oh yeah,
And
I'm your hype man here. I'm like, yeah.
yeah. Normally,
Oh, yeah.
normally in movies and shows, we would have already had that kind of future shuttle in the year 2300. But Star Trek is doing the appropriate conservative thing and be like, we won't figure out how to make a cool future shuttle that soon.
Well, didn't they have in the episode where they are on that ice planet with the ice planet monsters? They were on like a training shuttlecraft. It was sort of similar, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think it looked
I think
different.
so.
but
remember.
It was similar design scheme.
So yeah, I'd have to look at that
We gotta
again.
repay attention. We gotta pay more attention to it
But
next time.
I thought the
It
effect,
looked like a little egg,
the effect for that the
shuttle egg.
for the effect of the snake
Jake the snake.
Jake the snake sea
Snake,
creature.
snake to snake.
It was awesome. It was really cool. I really liked it a lot.
That was pretty cool.
It was
yeah.
fucking awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
I want my house to be like that.
Yeah, it was
It's
after
like-
all that.
Like, just wait for it. Okay.
Well,
It's like when
that
when that shark ate Marty in Back to the Future 2, that Jaws 34 or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was gonna say I thought that I liked the effect. Plus, like the other fish effect, I liked it, but it kind of was jarring. This I liked the effect, but it was also blended in well. I thought it was super cool.
For me, the brilliance here is that out of all the myriad of effects that have been on Star Trek Discovery over the past 3.5, 4 whatever seasons, you've chosen to compare two mildly aquatically related. One is in a pond and it's a fish, and the other's in some sort of planetary ocean and it's a big dragon creature.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Is they're cool, weird looking creatures, you know? And so,
but also aquatic, because
that's
you
true.
didn't compare it to the space worms.
Well, then, did you ever think about how in
Glowworms.
how in Phantom Mantis,
praying mantis.
Star Wars Phantom Menace, when they go to the Gungans, right? The Gungan planet, and there was that head Gungan guy, and he goes like, and he's a spittle like,
Oh no!
a spittle like flies out of his mouth. It looks all stupid and reflective and weird and like cheesy.
Yes.
Maybe that's what I was trying to. Maybe I've been like, how far along have we come in ocean-based, water-based, CGI?
Hopefully a long way.
Quite far.
Quite far.
Yes.
Quite far. I'm confident in saying quite far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pun far.
Pond far.
So the
A bridge too far.
the barge. I know we're already at the barge, but it's pretty early on.
Burnham gave I like the Burnham gave when Owosakun said was like karma barge.
Yes,
And she was just like, yeah.
There's a lot of good faces in here. So the Karma Barge, I loved everything about this because on the one hand, it's mixing some good old-fashioned Star Trek favorites, right? We got Ferengi and Changelings. We have a seedy bar. But instead of being on a space station or on some of the known planets, it's on a fucking barge that's protected by a crazy hologram. That's kind of awesome.
And it's always neat when there's sort of like something in the middle of the ocean. There's nothing else.
What is
around.
isolinium? I'm sort of
It's
missing
some-
what the deal
Yeah,
is.
I think it was. I couldn't find any references to it. I think it might be. I feel like it's something I've heard before, but I don't find any history
It's because
of
it sounds similar to isolinear, right? Isolinear, the isolinear chips
That's
or
probably what it is.
isolinear rods.
That's got to be.
I also thought it was interesting that when Sean Doyle, Ruan Tarka, he's talking about the purity of it, and he's like, we want the pure stuff, not the stuff that's as it's like normally it's mixed with simoleons.
Right.
Yeah. He says simoleon.
Holy simoleon.
And simoleon is like the currency in Sim City.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And it comes from it's an older phrase reference.
Simonium.
It's like.
Did he say simonium or
He said
Simonium? It sounded like he said simoleon.
I remember,
but I believe you if one of the internet resources says otherwise.
I don't know because I actually that's what the closed captioning said, so I could be wrong.
Could be. Yeah,
But-
you can't trust IMDb. You can't trust closed captioning.
I trust nothing.
Those are the two things I teach my children.
Yeah, that's
When they go out in
important.
the world. You can't trust closed captioning and you can't trust IMDb and translations from other languages. Be wary about that. Might be telling you a whole different story.
You never know. So
Serbian,
according to
especially.
Memory Alpha only cites this episode all in as a reference to Iceland.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Haz Mazzaro rules. I dig this guy.
Oh, yeah.
And he's played by an actor. He was on Discovery on
who is that kid?
season 3. Actor named Daniel Cash. He played Duggan, which is in Terra Firma Part 2. That was with Mirror, Empress Giorgio and Mirror Lorca's plot to kill her, and the Duggan guy was trying to plot to assassinate her.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah, no, it's a different Duggan.
Sure.
This fella's name is it wasn't even the actor's name. It was the character's name. I don't know what the character's first name was, but anyway, so he's been on Discovery before, but I really enjoyed this character. His weird quirk of having colloquialisms for everything, At one point, he tells Burnham, "I missed you more than a Cardassian misses cake."
Yeah, it's like do they actually miss? Do they like cake?
Yeah,
Apparently.
there's no. It could have been saying that they actually hate cake or something. He actually didn't miss her.
But I think the implication was he missed her.
Strutting around like Klingons at a disco.
Yes,
Yeah.
that was another great one. You could argue there's a meta joke there. There's a meta joke because disco is short for discovery.
Well, yeah.
Oh shit!
You could argue that. I will not argue that.
And that's
But you
one mention of Klingons.
yeah.
but nobody's seen the.
Nobody's
fucking
seen the
Klingons.
fucking.
Yeah, at least they finally mentioned them.
Yeah.
What was that thing about a Beta Z and a Neezer case?
Okay.
Yes. I was hoping somebody wrote all these down. I didn't have time to.
I actually did write them. The only thing that I can think about the Beta Z in a Kneezer cage is he was letting him know that he's like
But what is this Kneezer?
No, okay, so yeah, the Kneezer cage, that's right. So the only thing I could think about the Kneezer cage was he was saying he's easier to find than a Beta Z in a Kneezer cage. The Kneezer cage must be some kind of thing that can siphon empathic ability or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought it was just going to be some like a box of chocolate.
That's just Troy, silly. You can't judge a whole culture and species.
I thought
from one
in Star
person.
Trek we were supposed to do that.
And she's half human anyway.
Yeah,
That's not. Isn't that how Star Trek works? They give us one character from a different species.
It's like
they're always half human.
well, it's like there's one type of group of people on each planet. You know?
Yeah, and they all dress the same and have the
Yeah.
exact same political philosophies.
Yeah.
Except when the plot suggests that they don't.
So I'm assuming that a Kneezer cage just has this thing where it can detect empathic abilities.
Did you try
and use it
looking
for
up
energy.
Kneezer cage?
Maybe it's a Ryza
on
thing.
Memory Alpha
Maybe it's a Ryza thing. It's like a Jamaharan.
or some sort of clever rat.
By the way, it is Simonium, and it's only been referenced on Discovery.
Making new shit up all the time.
I don't know what a Kneezer cage is, but
What about just a Kneezer? Just do a search for a Kneezer, not Ebenezer, a Kneezer.
no, it's
Kneezer.
just Kneezer.
A Kneezer?
It's not a Kneezer,
Hardly
it's
knew-
Kneezer.
hardly knew.
A Kneezer cage. A Kneezer C cage.
Who the hell are you? A Kneezer. A Kneezer cage.
I don't think I don't think Kneezer has been because in the list of references at the bottom of the Memory Alpha page, there's links to ones that I think have references.
Royce Coolidge.
And this one doesn't have a hyperlink associated with it. And when I look up Kneezer, it just keeps looking up like
crisp bread.
it just brings up a bunch of people like Pat Kneezer, Kenneth Kneezer, the Kneezer
Pat
family history.
Kneezer. Fuck.
Pat Kneezer.
It's nothing. It's
You
nothing.
gotta watch out for
What
that
about
guy.
what were some of the other Has Mazzaro phrases? Good. But while you're looking that up, I mean, the character design on this fellow was wicked. Not an alien that I believe we're familiar with. I think this is a
Kind of reptile, like those reptile aliens on the Orville.
yeah, or
almost like that, but different.
or Babylon 5-ish.
Or- yeah, like
right?
Babylon
so,
5-ish.
So like influences
Kind
there.
of triangular alien.
But a very sophisticated practical appliance, but a practical appliance, right? And but they gave so much emotion to his face, which I think helped for this particular character because he's got to be all smooth and charming and whatnot.
What is the name? I keep forgetting the name.
Lots of different like body motions and like he's all like moving and shaking and stuff.
What's the name of
Effin and Jeffin.
No, it's a Morn is a Lorian.
There was a
Lurian,
Morn.
yeah,
I saw a Morn.
Lurian.
A Lorian or is it a Lorian?
Lurian, I believe, with a U. And the great aggravation people have, and it's justified in my book, is that all the Lurians they have shown on Discovery are Morn style in that
Yes.
they're bald, whereas we learned in Deep Space Nine that Morn being bald was considered somewhat unusual,
bald?
that the Lurians normally had a head of hair, but he poisoned himself through a plot mechanic, which I won't reveal.
Maybe they should wear hats.
And resulted in him losing his hair. So they should all have big flowing heads of hair, I think.
That's interesting. Well, it also they didn't try to do anything new with it. It's just the same old regular looking Norm Lorian.
Yeah.
It's not like they didn't discoverify it or something.
Yeah.
There
Didn't
was a-
show one like just talking all the time and like laughing and joking and like
What?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
they should have shown one of those guys like
Mornish.
talking and like
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the other thing.
Yeah,
Morn,
right.
Morn talks all the time.
that's what
Right.
what he says he does, but you
Yeah,
never
we just
see
never see it.
So we were wondering before about in a few earlier episodes.
such a
There was
gossip.
what looked like to be a Ferengi, but it was some kind of crazy, dark, demonic looking Ferengi.
They look different on
but we
Discovery.
weren't sure if those were Ferengi or not. Now there was a Ferengi in this episode.
We've seen a lot of Ferengi because remember they have a Ferengi bartender on Discovery now.
Yeah,
Okay, so
But you only ever see them in the background.
there's
right,
a
so
bunch of Ferengi.
well, we saw a Ferengi in this episode, and from
a flock of
and it was
Ferengi.
in the background, but it looked like a normal Ferengi. It didn't look like that crazy looking Ferengi. If there was a few episodes back, there was something that looked like a crazy Ferengi.
But that like
crazy lobes.
your chosen adjective is a crazy looking. It was the lighting
I
was
shouldn't
also
throw that word crazy
the
around.
lighting was it's a little bit ableist.
mentally unstable Ferengi.
Okay, I didn't mean it.
No, he just doesn't want to say he was a fucking ugly Ferengi.
I was about to pull that thing. It's like,
he was a hideous, disgusting Ferengi.
I was about to pull that
It
thing
was
where you
of non-standard appearance.
where you say like, no, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it that. I just meant it was because it was wild.
I just meant he was an ugly piece of shit, and
trying-
I'm judging him physically. I'm disgusted by him physically.
It's like when you take the offensive word and you say, no, I didn't mean it to mean what people thought I meant it to mean.
I meant something much worse.
So okay, the Ferengi looked all demonic in the few episodes back. It looked all like this evil Ferengi.
Yeah.
And this looked like a normal Ferengi.
I
trying
think,
to
I
get-
think, I
tiptoe
think,
around this
like a
minefield.
Ferengi gremlin or something.
I think
Yeah, exactly.
the updated.
That's exactly right.
So a couple things. First of all, could be lighting. It could be that Ferengi was meant to be
Not a Ferengi at all.
a hybrid Ferengi with other genes. So because
Why
at
would
this
they do
stage-
that? They wouldn't do that.
Why
though.
not?
They wouldn't do
why
that.
not? Are you say Ferengi can't get together with the
No,
Klingons?
I'm not
Like
saying
a,
that.
the
a
humans,
five
or the
Ferengi or a six
Cardassians,
Ferengi.
or the Romulans,
I just don't think
or
for-
the Bajorans,
I'm just saying-
or the Beta Zeds,
I'm
or
just
the Gorn.
I'm just well, they don't. Okay, I'm just saying for the purposes of having an extra character in the scene, why would they put that much thought into it?
They did that with President Rillick.
But she's not a background character. She's a major character.
Okay, I get your
I'm
point
saying
is a valid
I don't
point.
disagree that they should. They should do that. But I'm just thinking. I just don't think they put that kind of.
I'm
thought
merely
into it.
tossing out potential explanations for the horrific visage that you are recalling.
You're gonna make me
compared
toss
to
my
the-
cookies out.
Toss your cookies.
Is that a euphemism for vomiting?
I'm gonna throw them out in the garbage.
What were we talking about? Star Trek Discovery, right?
What in the Caterpod and Calaman
That's
Sherry
right.
is going on here?
What did that mean?
I don't know. What in the Catermon?
That was another Hazmazaro.
Yeah, that was another. It was something about like some kind of craziness was going down. Oh yeah, it was the Changeling.
The changeling,
And which
business
was
is
interesting
That
because
was
that wasn't an Odo style changing. It was a dusty changing instead of a goopy changing.
But
freaky
but
looking
it was
changeling.
Odo style. What's
no,
cool?
Godo's goopy.
No, okay.
It had an Odo face.
Call me friend. Call me Bones, friend. Call me Bones. It was
I think
clearly
he said, call me Bones. I was like, is that a Star Trek reference?
call me. But no, I insist you call me Bones. That's my new name. Clearly, this character was intended to be a Odo style changeling, a founder style changeling.
It was a dusty changeling.
They have
It was a dirt.
upgraded.
It was a dirt
Dusky.
changeling.
They have
Dusky.
upgraded the effects in what I thought was an appropriate and aesthetically and intellectually pleasing way to make it more crumbly dusty when he turns into a tribble, which is also awesome, and
Yeah.
it's just rolling away making that tribble sound.
Are you saying dirt's better than goop?
Natalie was like, "Did he turn into a
I
triple?"
think it's more interesting, and I wouldn't call it dirt. I'd say sand.
Sand, dirt.
But
Okay.
but we saw a
Earth.
founder looking face at the end, and in addition to it being a founder looking face, so there we go. That's sufficient evidence alone. Why would they do? Because it kind of doesn't make it always gets back to that question. Is like, why do the founders all look like that? Well,
Yeah.
it's because Odo couldn't do faces well, so that's why he said he looked like that. And then the other founders did that supposedly because they wanted to make Odo feel comfortable or
That's
something.
weird.
But who
How
knows?
convenient.
I know.
But that's so that changeling was before it was some kind of blinky alien, and they thought the alien was like communicating with other aliens, but it turned out to just be like a tell. I thought the only reason I could think that they bothered to talk about that eyeball thing because it didn't have any effect on anything is just to draw their attention to this creature, this species, this being, this person to begin with. Like, why would they bother?
They
Taking
just wanted
time.
to throw a
why would they?
changeling.
Yeah. Why did they bother taking time out of the episode to say, "Oh, look, he's communicating. They're cheating by communicating through their eye blinks," and it turns out no, it's just a tell. I guess the only reason they did that is so we could see the changeling move, and then
I also think
like why else? I don't know.
they were
what-
trying to get the idea of a tell. This is all based around. They've made a future version of Texas Hold'em poker here, right? And a lot of the thematic elements in the episode are tied to that. Everyone's got to tell,
Right.
I don't know if they really hit it as hard as maybe they initially intended.
Yeah, I could see that.
But clearly they were trying to structure it because Burnham says when Owashikun goes back into the ring, which we haven't even gotten to talk about that awesome part yet, where it's the third time she goes back in the ring and Burnham is like all in. Right?
Yeah, right.
And then, so there's like a lot of like, Burnham mentions people having, tells. It's all about the tells and the poker and the this, that, and the other thing. I don't know exactly what they were saying beyond that, but it was in the text that they were highlighting that concept as a structure to hang some thoughts onto.
You don't think you know what they were saying when they had the fight with?
No, I know what they're saying. I'm saying I don't know what if there was intended to be some greater thematic message. I've missed it in this
about.
case.
Are you talking about that? Why there was a fight at all? Or are you saying why?
No, not the. I'm talking about this poker motif.
There's just a lot of poker.
I'm talking about
imagery.
like the poker, the tells,
right?
the
I see what
all-ins and
I
stuff.
got you.
I'm saying they made a point to use those terms and set things up in a certain way.
Right.
But write in and tell us what we've missed, or because I missed it if there was some greater thematic point that pulls that all together. I don't know.
So speaking of the fighting, apparently they have fight octagons in distant planets 900 years in the future too. It's all about. It's been established as the universal.
They have that like on Voyager.
It's the universal Vale-Tudo ring, which is an octagon. And but I didn't. I was actually taken by surprise. I didn't realize OO was hustling them. Like, because it seemed like I didn't see that. And then when she goes,
has been hustling everybody.
And then Burnham and Book hustle the third party, like Orion Syndicate people, and then Burnham hustles Book because she puts the tracking device on.
Right. So it's interesting you bring those up. First, I just want to say I noticed that she was hustling. I guess it was when he goes, "Someone should teach you when to quit," and she goes, "Someone should teach you and your friends some manners." And then she suddenly looks all confident and pulls a super squat. I almost said a sugar squat. But she like did like a.
What's a sugar squat?
Don't look it up on whatever it is on Google. I don't know what it is.
Let's not find out.
I'm not going to look it up.
Find out.
We highly recommend nobody else look up sugar squat.
Yeah, so that's when I realized she was hustling. Maybe other people figured it out sooner. But the question now I had was, did Burnham know that she was hustling? Because
maybe not.
Because you'd think she was you'd think that she didn't know by the way she was acting concerned about Owasa-kun's health. That twice she was like, "No, you got to quit." But then you could say like maybe she was putting on a show for the audience.
I think you could argue she was putting on a show.
Yeah, because why would
Burnham's pretty smart,
and they would fill each other in on the plan, ahead of time.
Yeah.
But have you ever seen that in a TV show or a movie before when suddenly there's the big twist is that the person was hoodwinking like people all along, and hustling people all along?
Kaiser Soze.
Yeah. So just like Kaiser Soze, but
in The Usual Suspects.
But I'm just trying to figure out how to put this into words. So you have a person who's acting a certain way the whole time, and then they turn out that somebody was in on it the whole time.
Yeah,
right?
like in Spaceballs when Dark Helmet uses the what's it called? It's not the Force.
The Schwartz.
The Schwartz. He uses the Schwartz to have a hologram of King Roland, and he's all calling the Princess Vespa out of Yogurt's hidden caverns.
Right.
And then she comes out, and then he's all like, "Fooled you." Is that what you're talking about?
Or
No,
like
not,
when we have our little breaks and we come back from the breaks and you're like, "I'm gonna talk like this."
Yeah,
that is another foolish thing that I do.
Oh, that's foolish, but it's not fooling.
Okay, so you got person A and person B who you think are enemies, but it turns out they're in cahoots the whole time, right? Mm-hmm. And you think like, oh no, they must have put on a show for everyone to make them think that they were enemies, but really they're friends. Oh no. But the problem sometimes happens is where you'll see scenes with just the two of them, and they'll be acting like they're still enemies in front of when there's no other audience. So I can only think
just you.
So they're the only audience. Exactly. The only audience is me, the viewer. So that's like some fourth wall breaking shit right there. You know what I'm saying? That's
yes.
But that's not what happened
here. It could
here.
also happen in novels. So you could be a reader.
I could be a reader. I don't know how to read.
Come on.
Why are you looking up stuff on the internet?
I just want to make you think I'm smart.
You're just making shit up. You're like a memory alpha. Click.
This whole time. Actually, wait a second. Hold on. I'm getting some dead air for a minute. I'm going to look this up.
He's like, I don't want to look stupid, so I'm just going to memorize the entire Star Trek lore.
Yeah.
Database style in a memory
You
palette.
had somebody read it to you back
crazy.
in the day.
I have an earpiece. But no, I don't think that this episode did it. I guess she was in cahoots, and she was just because the audience had no way of knowing that Burnham was in on it.
And the way it's directed, they don't give us any clues, so you could interpret it a few different ways. To me, it makes the most sense that Burnham was in on it, or at least got the like the subtle like they can communicate without talking kind of vibe where Burnham's like, okay, I got the deal, because Burnham like bet all the gold. Like if Burnham Latinum, yeah, you're right. Hey, you interrupted me. Maybe I was going to say gold press Latinum.
Oh, you're right.
Maybe I was.
You might have.
I wasn't, but I could have been. You never know.
You never know.
You never know about these things.
know. Well, that reminds me, the hustling thing. You're talking about the hustling. How later on, how
now and laters. You guys remember now and laters?
well, first time I heard it, so the kid kept
Candies
saying
that they're kind of gross. They're good, but they're kind of gross.
they kind of have that old salt.
They're really sticky.
When salt
They're
gets
like-
old and tastes like Play-Doh.
It's like I'd rather have either a Mamba or a Starburst.
Ooh, Mambas are good.
Aren't Starbursts called something different in England?
I don't know.
I think they're called something different. They're called like fruit star candy or something.
Fruit Star candy.
I believe I saw it.
The first time I heard of now and laters, I thought the kid kept saying narrator. I was like, what's a narrator?
Oh, kids are always
Yeah, there was-
pronouncing things.
Yes.
Narrator sounds like something
Narrator.
that Geordie LaForge would have in his closet.
In his closet. He's some kind of weird engineering sex toy as a narrator. So you're talking about, so Book and Burnham hustled those two emerald chain wannabes. So notice that
Who were hilarious, by the way.
yeah, they were. So you notice that when Owosakun won and they were collecting their shit, the dude they were fighting with, he's like, no, you don't get the money. You were hustling us. It's like, well, that's part of the fucking game, man. You know, that's tough shit. What, you're an idiot? So like,
It's like lawless space.
yeah.
Like,
So there's
come
certain
on.
unspoken rules. But then again, there's the whole casino. You're not allowed to count cards in blackjack, even though that's technically could all be done in your head. So that's a weird thing that they decided
know.
you can't cheat on. But whatever. But so anyway,
Capitalism.
they're pissed and acting like you guys fucked with us, and it's like, nah, man, that's part of the game. But notice that those Osira wannabes, the Emerald Chain people, they were surprisingly accepting of the outcome of the poker game, considering Burnham and Book were clearly cheating.
obviously
Yeah,
cheating.
Clearly cheating.
And they were obviously ex-lovers.
Yeah, right. So it seems like
it's like tap tap tap.
It's-
Oh, I'm rubbing my shoulder in a certain way.
yeah, so it seems like the fight promoter who was calling bullshit, he had no place to say that, but if anyone had a right to call bullshit, it was fucking here, cheating at poker, you know? But maybe that's just Leonian poker, man. I don't know.
I think that this must have been a sort of a last-ditch solution to a writing problem, a story problem here, because bringing these people in is sort of ludicrous.
Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere.
Now, where it makes sense from the position of Haz Marazzo, if I recall.
Yeah,
his
it's
name
Haz
right.
Mazzaro.
Haz Mazzaro.
Mazzaro.
Haz Mazzaro. He's got
Snazza
two people. He's got two people who are bidding up this little chunk of isolinium. Is it isolinium?
Yeah, isolinium.
And it makes sense. I think that is something that is logical and clever in the sense it's like, do you want to make even more money? Hey, call around, see if any other motherfuckers are willing to get in on this bidding war, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, that sort of by itself makes sense to me. But the actual setup, like, it's ludicrous. They just show up. They don't say a word. They basically don't say anything. They sit down. They play poker.
It's not a little annoyed.
I think just one of them's playing poker.
It's not clear what's
100%
going
clear
on
if
there.
they're
Yeah.
One
both
of them
playing
goes
poker.
out early, and then the other one goes out.
They're just kind of like, I'm frustrated.
But
It's
what
like, that's bad behavior.
what
and she gets
kind of doesn't make
phased
sense?
out.
Yeah, right.
What kind of doesn't make
Yeah.
sense is like I'm a crime lord dude. And I'm gonna call up some people and be like, hey, you want to buy some stuff? It's a perfect time to buy it because I got two other bidders.
Yeah.
Why weren't they already trying to buy it?
You didn't know I had this, or you weren't looking
Right.
for this until I reached out to you. Now you're going to come to my bar, and oh, by the way, I've misled you. I've implied this is some sort of transaction, but in fact, I'm going to get you roped into some confusing poker game where the ante for one of the parties is that they captured a cheater, and the ante for the other
Yeah,
party
right, yeah.
is a bunch of gold that was already
Gold press latinum.
Gold press latinum, thank you. That was already your own gold, but they won
Press
it.
latinum.
They won it. Not all of it was his own gold. They just won it from the
The audience, the people from the, it was 45 to 1 odds. Like,
Yeah.
Nobody's
That's a lot.
heard of isolinium before this episode, so he was like, "I got this isolinium shit. Don't you want it?" And then that's why nobody's.
It kept so, but then like I guess they're paying latinum to get into the game and win this thing, but that doesn't make sense to me because why would you risk the Latinum to win it as opposed to being like, well, I'll just wait until you have some more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And just pay for it.
Right.
Why am I going through these hoops of joining? Who are these fucking people? They're clearly lovers and they're having some sort of thing, but they're also cheating against us.
Space creeps.
Yeah. He kept going back on his deals too the whole time, but I guess that's just supposed to indicate how valuable this isolinium was. But yeah, it wasn't really.
I mean, it's his barge.
It's his barge. It's karma barge.
But yeah, I thought that was a little bit bizarre. And the reason why I say I think it was a solution to a
Bizarre
story
barge.
problem is they wanted to have a stage before the direct book Burnham confrontation.
It was like a little mini tournament.
They needed
of
a little
plot tournament.
something into there. And part of that was that in order to get to where they're trying to go with this, I think, where I'm predicting they're trying to go with this, they need to have that, they need to maintain that connection, show that there's still something going on, not just romantic, but that they can still communicate with each other in some way.
I think that makes sense because I tell you, a swamp cat could have learned the Horton hustle before I figured that out.
Oh, I didn't catch that one.
Haz Mazzaro.
That was actually since I last saw you. A swamp cat could have learned, and the Klingon disco one was it's when he goes, while you two were strutting around like a Klingon in the disco, I reached out to some of my regulars and found two who'd be happy to take the isolinium, those people, off your hands and get back to your relationship.
I've needlessly complicated this story. All right, so let's take a quick break, and then when we come back, we will continue discussing.
Maybe it'll be with a different voice.
All in. All right, we'll be right back. And we are back from the commercials. Whatever you just heard, that's what we're back from.
It was restful.
You got yourself a deal, but jab a bustle fly, and I'll scoot some green bread.
I didn't understand that one. That was the one I didn't understand.
Yeah.
A Brussels fly. I hacked
that one I didn't understand, and the other one I didn't understand was when he said
Brussels spry. Brussels fly.
It's like whether I sell it to you or you, I'm still a bantha tree. Is that what he said? A bantha tree?
He said
That's what it sounded like, a bantha tree. That's
like, that's a Star Wars.
Yeah, it was banta. He said banta.
What's a bantha tree?
Some nonsense.
Unless he says you're damned. It's like saying I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Either way, you end up as a banta tree. Yeah, I don't know we can only presume banta tree is some kind of thing that you don't want to become.
No, I think it is you want to become it. He's saying he's in good shape regardless.
No, he's saying you're right.
Yeah. He's saying his point is he's trying to explain. He's like, I'm in the good position.
Yeah.
Whichever way it goes, I win.
Okay, so I was saying the same thing except the opposite, where it's, no matter what.
So it was not the same thing.
But the idea is the same.
This is not math, Dan. This is real life.
It was just
real life. I know you like your mathematical axioms.
I just multiplied. I divided when I should have multiplied. That's all.
There you go again.
Yeah, so your bantha tree is a good thing. Yeah, that's some Star Wars bantha fodder. That's what they always say is bantha fodder in Star Wars.
Well, so getting back to the Burnham book confrontation, there's the overall confrontation and there's the specific one, the conversations they have in this episode. I think that what they haven't explicitly stated as such, but they've sort of set this up like a Kobayashi Maru scenario, sort of a no-win scenario for Burnham, right? Because she's got, the man she loves and the person she wants to be have as a partner in her life is gone rogue, and she has her duty to Starfleet. Yeah. But she kind of resolved, it's not a solution. She hasn't resolved whatever issues there are going to be with her relationship with Book moving forward have not been resolved yet. But I really enjoyed the whole sneaky, putting the tracker on and not finding out until later, and then surprising President Rillick. That was some Kirk style, good old fashioned Star Trek fun times.
And they actually
good Starfleet.
And they kept the continuity between those two scenes, because there was the original scene where she was studying it, and then there was the callback. And so, in the first time we saw it, she's putting her right hand on there, and then when her right hand's on there and she takes it, she's taking it away, and then they cut away to her face. She says, what does she say? She says something about oh great.
Oh geez.
Oh yeah. Oh geez. When she goes, when cut with impurities, blah 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 blah. That's when they cut away to her face, is when she goes, when cut with impurities, and so you're like, okay, well we didn't see anything happen. But when they do the recap, instead of on her face when they say cut with impurities, they're on the left hand, which we never saw in the original one. So that's when the left hand was sneaking in when she said that. So it works in continuity, because it's not like you know, sometimes they'll do it where like they're all fondling it and shoving it all up and down things, and there's no way they could have fucking put that shit on there.
Yeah,
and
provide an example.
Like when you know when the TV show goes to the commercial and they're falling off the cliff and then they come back but they haven't fallen off the cliff yet.
Which TV show?
Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or
okay, I get
or
you.
Original Batman or something
I can
like
buy
that.
that.
Yeah. I can't name a specific example. That's what you're getting at. What you were trying to get at. But they paid attention. They paid attention to you know, at least making it seem like it could have happened.
And it's there's visual continuity, but there's character continuity as well. That's what I
continuity?
Like. Continuity.
I'd say continuity.
Continuity or continuity?
I've never said
continuity sounds better, and I have no doubt people will argue it's correct. In fact, past me from about 10 minutes ago probably would have argued it was correct, but since more recent me said continuity,
that's what it is. I'm going with that.
I might choose to argue a different way.
It's biopic, it's not myopic like biopic.
No, I say biopic as well.
That's what you're supposed to say.
No, I say biopic.
You're not supposed to say that.
Why not? Biopic sounds better.
Because it sounds like myopic. It's not the same thing.
Biopic.
It's
not the same thing.
It's a picture about it. It's a picture.
Biopic.
It's a
biopic.
It's biopic because it's about your bio.
Yeah, no, I understand the logic, and I accept that may be the winning argument in the end. But language, like all constructed aspects of social life, is negotiated and evolves over time. Evolves, changes, and adapts.
Yeah.
We might find that saying biopic has some advantages that biopic doesn't. Biopic is a little bit easier to say.
Well, as the saying goes,
Biopic.
to the salvo goes the spud.
This guy.
To the what?
This guy with all his sayings and whatnot. I hope we see him again. One thing that I thought I was a little bit disappointed in overall. I really enjoyed this episode. I thought the writing was great, the acting, the story, all the little bits and pieces worked together real nice. One thing that I was a little disappointed by was Book had that great line where he basically says, like, you know, Haas is fun until he's not.
Yeah, right.
And we didn't get to see.
I was thinking the same thing.
Not.
Yeah, because we've seen that sort of character before where they're super awesome, but you get on their bad side and they're fucking ruthless. And yeah, we never saw anything like. The only thing close to we saw it was when he was talking about how he fucked up with his shipments or something.
Yeah,
he
took money from him. He didn't like murder him.
He was Ertl. It was Ertl. He got
Did I do that?
Yeah, exactly. Steve Ertl. He says you stole he stole because Book stole his transworm cargo, and they spent 6 months trying to get back his losses. By the way, was that the situation in which we met Book?
I believe they're referring to the original situation where we met him.
But that was the closest we got, but nothing came of it. You know, he was like, "Oh, I'll study some guys on your floor and figure it out."
In and amongst his various colloquialisms, a few of them referenced, you know, being thrown into the sea with some sort of cement boots, mafia style. Except it was Star Trek cement. It wasn't, you know, whatever it was. It wasn't cement boots, but it was.
Yeah,
I remember that.
That's if you act like an Armis. You swim the Parathian Ocean with weighted boots.
Yeah, they're weighted boots. It's not even like isolinear boots.
Super ISO boots.
Cardassian boots.
So the only real
Cardassian boots will sink you right down to the bottom of the sea.
The only real purpose then of him bringing up that, other than to link to our initial meeting with Book to provide a linkage to that, but the only real purpose of bringing that conflict up was just so Book could be like, well, maybe I can find some cheaters out there or something. And
so I like the idea. It's world building. It's character building. I like the idea that they have an existing relationship, and you can have a show that says they have an existing relationship, but then by actually creating something that references something we know happened and tying it all in, it makes that existing relationship feel more real. We've never seen this character before, but because of the strength of the writing and the story structure and the actor who plays Haas, Mazzaro, we feel that both Book and Burnham have had a pre-existing relationship, slightly different flavors to the relationship for each of those characters.
Friendship insurance wouldn't cover them because they had a pre-existing relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. You've halted me in my tracks.
Sorry.
With that clever turn of phrase. But yeah, it really does work very well. And part of my disappointment is it's an unrevealed Chekhov's gun, basically, right? It's an unutilized Chekhov's gun. They've implied that this guy is some sort of evil badass, or at least intense fellow, and we never saw him be anything but charming.
Yeah, and saying like, "I hope you two work it out," and when during the game, what was it? During the game when Book and Burnham kept winning, he kept like laughing like he was hacking up his heart or something. Like it sounded like there was problems, but you could tell he was on their side, So the whole time he was nothing but a gentleman.
So there were a couple lines in here where they sort of set up things that they don't resolve, and even if I hope we get to see this character again. This is the kind of character, Deep Space Nine style. You want to come back and encounter this person again in various scenarios, maybe as an enemy, maybe as an ally, whatever. But it doesn't even matter if they resolve this line by book later on. The way it's structured, it should have been resolved in this episode, and it kind of wasn't.
I agree, but I mean, it's true what the Elasians say. Give a man a Torback, and you are warm in the desert.
Yeah.
So.
That's another difficult one to interpret because the desert's warm during the day, but it's cold at night. So I don't know if it's good or bad.
I said bustle fly. It's a Brussels fly.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah. So Klingons at the disco, strutting around like a Klingon at the disco. Do you think Klingons strut around at the disco? Probably look.
Klingons strut around like everywhere they go.
Yeah. So why the disco?
They strut up to the replicator.
See, when I think of disco, I don't think of Klingons dancing in some kind of disco fun fashion.
They like dancing, I'm sure.
But it's a Klingon disco.
Yeah, it's a Klingon. Yeah, but it's not your standard disco. It's like some disco filled with gawk and
just stabbing people.
Yeah, and they're throwing gawk everywhere.
Their mosh pits are called stab pits.
Yeah, exactly. They're full of honor. I heard we had Starfleet guests, so I just had to scurry like a spider cow to welcome you. What the fuck is a spider cow? And was that better or worse than a cow spider?
Well, there were a few times in this episode, I think.
What kind of cheese do you get off of that?
It's off a spider
probably like really like lobstery crab meat,
webby cheese.
It's probably
lobster cheese.
Lobster cheese, yeah, with some mustard, crab mustard.
That makes me want to throw up.
So the episode overall was, I thought, very well directed. However, there are a couple edits here and there, like it's a few in the fight, and there was a couple with Haz Mazzaro when he's like showing up and disappearing. There's a couple times where it's sort of like the edit seems quicker than, it seems like you're missing half a second or something of something that just happened. Is something that jumped out at me, which I haven't seen for a while in Discovery. But this episode, I don't know, maybe they were missing some shots or something and they just had to cobble together what they had. It looked good in the end. It was just a couple things jumped out at me.
Anything in particular?
Yeah, like Haz Mazzaro when he's first introduced, and he sort of comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "Oh, hey,
glowworm!"
It's so quick. He's like, "Tell him it's glowworm," and then the guy, it's like immediately he's like, "Glowworm!"
It's like, did he even tell him, or was it that guy just listening?
Yeah, that's a good point.
There's just a couple times where that, and then in the fight scene, there like when he was holding her up and then throws her down.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
It seems like they were missing part of that.
I was thinking that too, actually. That it was weird because she was like lofted way up there.
You thought you were just going to see him throw her down.
Yeah, but she kind of like just sort of was on her stomach on the ground. So yeah, that was a little weird. This is the first episode where we really get to focus on Owasakun.
Owasakun's. I mean, we've seen her a few times before, like come to the forefront, like with Captain Pike on that planet. She was helpful. That was one of the first times I think she really got to be a more three-dimensional character. But I love every time her character is foregrounded.
Yeah, it seems like they set it up for this season was when in the episode they talk about her not standing down from Saru at the subspace rift because she wanted to help. She wasn't being mean or jerky or anything. She just really wanted to help, and and Saru was like, "It's cool, you just got to chill out," But
yeah, that's what Saru said.
But she's usually just chill out, yo. But usually Oo is seen in tandem with Detmer. In fact, we don't. This is a Detmer-free episode for some reason.
So much
Detmer light season.
Do actors get paid per episode? I mean, I guess it depends on their contract.
It depends on the contract. Most are probably for the season.
Yeah,
but, this was filmed during COVID, and I read a few articles that talked about how because of the limitations of who they could have on set and travel and other things, it just you see a lot more separate groups of people because it was just
that's an interesting point because that's true. That is kind of what was going on.
They had to limit how many people, and not only limit, there were a few outbreaks and stuff, so they had to shut down stuff. So. I think they handled it well. It's one of those things. Maybe the benefit is that we get to have a little bit more focus on individual characters in a deeper way than we might have otherwise if they were writing it more to the style that they were doing in previous seasons.
Yeah. That's a good point, because I did notice that they have these different group kind of things going on, and I guess you could say they're A and B plots, but I don't know. Sometimes they are very limited in the amount of people they'll have at one time.
Man, no Adira in this episode.
No Adira. Yeah, I'm wondering. I'm hoping they get to follow up on
and of course Tilly's off. Tilly's off at
Trill.
The academy doing her.
There's
thing.
a little bit of those other guys, Stamets and Dr. Hugh.
Yeah.
Right. Well, so I think with the issue with Tilly is.
Yeah,
I basically consider she's gone.
Yeah, she's for now.
But
she'll be back.
But
sure.
Adira, at least I mean, I'm guessing they're going to follow up on their trip to Trill.
Of course,
you know.
presumably. But it's just you start to notice.
Did they go
these
to
things
Trill
a little.
too?
Yeah, because
Just to accompany
Just
Gray.
to accompany
Gray,
because
Gray was so Adira wanted to spend time with Gray before.
But yeah, you reminded me of Culber's freak out when he was like yelling.
Yeah.
My favorite part, one of my favorite parts of the whole episode is when Culber yells at the little dot.
yelling at that thing,
I felt bad for that little guy. He was just trying to help.
And
Come on.
when it's floating away, it's all like.
Yeah, and then at the end of the scene, and like when they're gone, you see it come back, and like it's like I just want to help, man. I just want to help.
I'm programmed to glean.
Yeah. But Culber,
That would be me though. Like I would totally be flipping out at like
Fluffing pillows and
that
stuff.
thing. Like
You're like, you don't fluff the pillows right. Leave a little bit of dust. You dust too much. You need a little dust for flavor. It's for atmosphere.
I remember one time, we don't have to talk about it, but I remember one time you got mad at a Choco Taco.
yeah, do you remember that thing?
Yeah.
Like it was so humid outside and it was all melty.
Yeah.
And like I threw it out the window or something.
Yeah, and
No, it was some kind of weird ice cream sandwich. It wasn't a Choco Taco.
Yeah,
but it was same difference.
It was kind of, but it was crispy. It wasn't like your standard ice cream sandwich. It had
because it was
crispy
all
shell.
the outside the wafery cookie bit was so hard and like the
ice cream.
The ice cream got so melty and it was like
It was just squishing.
it was squishing
Yeah.
all over me and I was like, "Fuck this thing!"
Yeah, I still remember that.
And you were like, "Well, I would have eaten it."
But it took me a minute to understand. But I totally got it later. I was like, yeah, that's not the same as getting to throw it out the window. It's like,
I mean,
you had to assert your dominance over that. thing.
Overreacted and maybe that
I get
wasn't,
it.
But
I
I was young and fiery.
Young and fiery.
I was in my 20s.
Not like you're all cool and mellow now.
I know,
So
right?
Colbert never loses his cool. Even when he died, he didn't lose his cool.
Yeah, it's rare that he has.
I know.
And it was
freak out.
interesting that Stamets knew it. Was like
Stamets is always losing his cool.
Yeah, Stamets is the
okay,
one.
well, so Stamets came in. He knew it was an explosive situation when he walked in, right? He knew it was like basically walking a minefield. You could tell he's like, dude. But he knew how to handle it. He was aware of this scenario, and he knew how to handle it. And right, Stamets is the one who's always high tension all the time. He's always seems all prickly. Of course, he's been improving on that over the season. But Culber's always been Mr. Cool, right? But when it bubbles over, it explodes, and you better, I think, because that's, I think, a common sort of thing people sort of attribute is like, are you the kind of person that's always kind of grumpy all the time? Or are you that person who's super nice and sweet all the time? Because those sweet, nice people, when they go, they fucking explode, and so it seems like what Culber was sort of, it seems like they kind of complimented the way they handle stress in that respect. You'd think as a psychologist, he would be more aware of that part of himself, but we're all just people.
It's hard to self-analyze.
He's mainly a doctor.
He's having to fill in.
It's hard to self-analyze.
It is. It's why you shouldn't have. You shouldn't be your own lawyer, right? Isn't that why? Not why, but that's along the same.
That's because you
philosophy.
would have no knowledge of the law.
Well, no, but even the lawyers should hire a lawyer.
But you would not. It would not have knowledge of the law of the whatever problem you're having in all likelihood.
What?
You're right. I'm being super semantic here, but one of the things is even if you're an attorney, you still specialize in an area of law.
Oh.
And in all likelihood, whatever issue you're facing, like if you're a divorce attorney,
don't get it.
you wouldn't be good at like doing a lawsuit necessarily.
It seems like even if you were doing it, you were getting arrested, you were in court for something you specialize in. It seems like you'd still want.
Of course.
Anyway,
Of course.
But that's
Of course.
an interesting point you make.
It's of course.
Lawyers do all sorts of things. Some
Doctors do too.
Sometimes lawyers, some lawyers don't litigate. A lot of them don't litigate. They just sign papers and patents and
Sign
things.
papers and patents.
It's like Ghosts and Goblins.
Give me some more. Hey
Chutes and
boy,
ladders.
give me some more. Give me some more patents. My signing pen is getting dry. Gotta keep it flowing. Keep the ink flowing.
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes you need a little zhush.
oh, so
So zhush is a word. ZHUZH.
Yes.
People use that word.
Yeah.
Zhuzh.
I don't. I
Zhush.
I
It's
know
a
I've
hip
heard it,
word.
but I don't.
Zhush.
I didn't know there was actual because I've seen it spelled that way in several places. It's a make more.
Several places.
Yeah, several places. It makes it.
You
That's
should write a song about it. I've seen zhuzh spelled that way in several
Is
places.
it- Is it Yiddish?
And it means it's true once on the internet. If you see it listed more than once, it must be true. It is. It's informal. It's just makes things more lively or attractive. I don't know where.
Zhuzh it up.
It's just a fun word.
Zhuzh it up.
That's a good question though. Where what
Probably
is the,
coined on one of them shows on TLC.
what
What?
about the fixing the house?
Oh, right. Yeah.
No, one of
It
them
says-
dress-up shows.
It says
Or
One of
them
Sex
shows-
in the City.
One of them shows where they say, "We don't like how you dress, so we're gonna dress you up."
Oh, right. Yeah, one
So-
of those. Yeah.
So I typed in Zhush origin and I get a different spelling, ZHOOSH instead of ZHUZH. And that one says it's 1970s, perhaps from Polari.
Polari.
I don't know what that
Is that where
means.
Polaroids come from?
Yeah, they come from Polari.
Or is
the
that
planet
the, or is
Polari.
that the plural for
it's
Polaroids?
it's a form of slang or can't or it what it says. Parali is a form of slang or can't used in Britain by some actors. What the I don't-
can't. Yeah, I know what can't.
Oh,
is.
can't.
Oh, I
Yes.
was, I was okay. I was trying to think of can't as a word. I was like, why is there not an apostrophe?
whatever have these devils done with the apostrophe?
These devils.
What have they done with
These internet devils.
Have they no copy editors?
Have you no copy editors, man? But I thought Stamets made a good point because he was talking about, it's like, you know, he's talking about how he's dealing with the DMA and gray settling and his book okay, and about the situation with Zora. And I like the point where he said it's not, basically saying it's not the same. My problems aren't the same as your problems, but all comes from the same place, which is uncertainty. Uncertainty. But that's really important when you're trying to comfort someone.
Like Earl Grey.
But not quite.
I was just gonna say, I don't know what it has to do with Earl Grey, but
Not
Oh,
quite.
no, let's make some wordplay connections here. You said uncertainty.
oh, okay.
Earl Grey.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Tea.
I actually didn't get that. I'm not even.
But it's
being-
uncertain.
Would it have been
So
better
it's
if
not
I
quite.
said chamomile?
No. Good. Well, wait,
Lipton? Are you
'Cause
a
that's not
Lipton
quite
guy?
tea, that's
Are you a
herbal.
Lipton
It's herbal
guy?
tea.
Maybe it would have been chamomile would have been better because when you say Earl Grey, I immediately think of Jean-Luc Picard, especially because
Irish breakfast?
Whenever I think of Irish breakfast, I always think of some weird perverted sex thing
Why?
because it's one of those gross things that you would never want to do.
No, but Irish breakfast tea. Irish breakfast tea.
That's
It's
even
just
grosser.
tea. It's just tea.
Tea with extra caffeine.
Whenever people order Irish breakfast, I'm like, you're into some freaky shit. Or English breakfast, actually. No, the Irish breakfast is ham and eggs and like blood pudding and all that shit. The English
That's
breakfast.
English breakfast.
No, that's Irish breakfast.
I think it's
a full
similar.
English breakfast would also have beans on toast and some black pudding, some white pudding.
Oh, that's fried tomatoes.
Some brown sauce on your face.
I want to know where you're getting your sexual stereotypes
that
from.
nice
Yeah.
that nice bacon they have. That's all like
yeah,
kind
it's
of
good
nice
bacon.
fatty ham.
Yeah.
So
You
what
get a
was,
bowl of rabbit eyes.
there was I was watching
You
this.
just eat them like Skittles.
You mentioned rabbits. This is a total tangent, but I was watching American Dad, and they had this one scene that was supposed to be now Weird Al's new parody of Sabotage called Rabbitage, and the only line they said is like, "I nab cabbage," you know, and then it cuts off, and they did it twice in that episode. The only line was, "I nab cabbage," and I don't know, this is so fucking funny.
All right, well,
Nab cabbage. Okay, what I was trying to get at.
That's
all
pretty
right,
good.
all right.
What I was trying to get at is
Back of the old ranch.
yes, it's like when it's important when you're trying to comfort someone going through emotional. Oh god, here we go again.
Emissional. Emissional. That makes me think
Oh
of
no,
semen.
I did
That
it.
makes me think
I
emission.
did it.
Like a
Oh.
nocturnal emission.
So
Nocturnal
what's
emission.
it? What is it called? Not a Freudian slip.
Diurnal emission
What
is more of a problem.
What did they call those slip?
Slipknot?
No, when Phlox was talking about to Archer. In
Not necessarily.
A night in a night in the sick bay when he said 2 Zipzonian slips in one because he said he was talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Because he was talking about how he loved. He was talking to Paul and he was talking about her lips or something.
I vaguely remember.
Yeah, some kind of. It wasn't a Freudian slip. It was a Zipzonian.
Yeah.
Zipzonian slip.
Zipzonian, some sort
So
of. Yeah.
okay, it's important when you're trying to comfort people. who's going through emotional difficulties, because everyone's problem is unique, right? So you can't. So when you go up to someone and say like, "I know how you're feeling,"
It's like, no, you fucking don't.
well, it's a little bit reductive.
It can be presumptive.
It is
Presumptuous.
Presumptuous.
Or perceived as presumptuous, even if it is not indeed presumptuous.
Yes, right. It's just like, how could you know? You may be going through something totally stressful and awful in your life, but you don't know exactly what I'm going through.
And people have different tools with which to respond to whatever stresses they're dealing with.
And I understand people's desire to sort of want their problem. The desire to understand that your problem is unique. It's true, because you want that to be yours. You want some control over, like, this is mine.
There's a certain narcissism and selfishness, and I don't mean that necessarily in a pejorative sense. It's just sort of the quality sometimes that our problems take on can have narcissistic and somewhat selfish properties in our brains.
Yeah.
Not in an intentional way.
Right.
Just as a side effect of our preoccupation with them and their impact on our lives.
Actually, I'll bring up Tarka real quick to that example, but it is true that everyone's problem is unique. It's not the same as breaking your arm, right? But that doesn't mean you have to deal with it alone. That's the key, is that he's saying like, just you don't have to isolate yourself simply because you feel like your problem is specific.
And I think that message is going to be important for the resolution of the season.
Yeah, well,
am I being too cagey?
No, I think. Well, I don't know if you know something I don't, but I
don't know nothing.
I don't know nothing. All I know is that I don't know nothing.
I'm putting together the puzzle pieces that they're laying down in front of us for us to pick up and place on the table and organize and do the corners first and all that.
But the reason I said Tarka is sort of an example of that, because his is a little bit more narcissistic. Now, Tarka is actually, hot take, Tarka's actually becoming likable, I think.
Yeah, and we don't...
I like him even less.
We don't know... we don't...
But,
just chug some whiskey.
Well, yes. Well, at one point, Tarka says he's doing the whole nobody understands my problems thing.
We don't know... Of all the people involved, we know the least about Tarka's true intentions and situation and history and background, right? So we're being led this way and that way, various red herrings, one way or the other. Is he cool? Is he not cool? Is he cool doing not cool things? But it turns out he's doing not cool things for good, cool reasons, right? Mm-hmm. The reason why I think that your comment about Stamets' message to Culber being, we need to communicate. We might be different. We might have different problems, but that doesn't mean that we can't mutually aid each other in some fashion or another. I think that might become important because the other major revelation in this episode regarding the season 4 plot is the conclusion they've arrived at that the DMA is not a weapon. It is a mining dredge.
It seems like almost like a Dyson sphere or something like that.
Oh no, I'm not talking about the place where it came from. I'm talking about the DMA itself.
There's a Faraday cage.
So in other words, the problem of the season is the DMA. What's the deal? What to do with it? Whatever. They've now concluded, as we discussed and predicted previously, and a lot of other people predicted because it's Star Trek, that it would ultimately turn out that the DMA is not some evil alien incursion. They're not trying to murder people.
It's a dredge or something.
It's probably a side effect, an unintended side effect of these aliens who we have now been presented as isolationist. Or that's certainly an assumption we can make. They are isolating themselves in this, I forget, I know they made a reference to an analogy to a Faraday cage. I forget.
Well, that's what it's saying.
Hyperfield structure.
Hyperfield, that's what it is. So the idea, they've now given us this information that we have an alien. Who knows if it could be one alien, it could be a group of aliens, whatever. But they are in what's effectively, yes, Dan, kind of like a Dyson sphere type thing.
Yeah, they said it's artificial because it has no black body radiation,
which is true science.
True science, like boronite, of course.
True science. That's what
boronite.
But that seems to be what they're setting up, and I would predict that the resolution is going to be that the reason the DMA has become an issue is because those people inside that. We'll just call it a mega Dyson sphere, super future Dyson sphere.
Little solar system in there.
That they have encountered a problem. And as a result of that problem, they are having to, maybe they don't have enough of the, what is it, boromite?
Boronite, more like need moronite.
Vegemite.
Boronite is also a Star Trek thing, I think.
Maybe they've run out of it. Maybe it's an ecological thing. I think what we're going to find out is that those people are suffering some calamity. And the result of that has been that they are having to mine for this stuff further afield than they normally would have.
Always some kind of calamity.
And that's what's inadvertently causing this problem to the people. And the ultimate resolution is going to be about communication and integration and togetherness. But basically what I'm saying is I think we're going to have a fairly standard Star Trek resolution that hopefully is done in a clever and interesting way, but it's going to come down to, we've got to at least talk to each other. We don't have to agree. We don't have to be coming from the same place, but if we talk to each other, we can avoid problems that we're causing for each other, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if Tarka would talk more about, because he talks about Owasakun, he's talking about varying degrees of, he's like, there's varying degrees of loss. If you could feel the weight of mine, if only for a fleeting moment, you might reconsider how much choice one has with regards to what comes of it. Basically, what I was saying about how he's like doing the nobody understands me thing. But that is like, if it's like, why don't you try telling somebody, you know, at least like communicating that idea. But
which is a classic TV trope,
yeah,
right? Of
Three's
people-
Company made a whole show on it.
Yes, they did. So we'll see. Okay, let's take a quick break and then come back to Dan's point.
It wasn't a point. It was just something. I was pointing out something, but it wasn't a point.
All right, Dan's going to point
It
something
was all
out.
pointy.
He's first in line to point something out. If Jesse or I jump ahead, that's no good. That would be us causing a ruckus because it's Dan's turn
Fuck
when we
that
get
guy.
back from break. All right, so we'll
Disrespectful.
be right back. Alrighty, we're back. Jesse, what was the point you wanted to make?
Oh, you.
Oh, I said, fuck that guy.
Oh man.
All right,
But I was joking.
All right, Dan. All right.
Boronite is Star Trek. It's according to it's Star Trek.
Boronite is Star Trek.
But
It's in there.
But Boronite is a real thing. It's also known as peacock ore. It is a sulfide mineral. Guess where I'm reading this from? With chemical composition that crystallizes in the orthorhombic system.
What?
Pseudo-cubic, that is.
Do you know what a female peacock is called?
A peahen.
Dan was supposed to answer that.
I would have never gotten that.
You would have never gotten
I would have
that?
never gotten that.
No. All right, it's a peahen.
Right.
All right. So I think one reason why, getting back to the Burnham book business,
Burnham
book burnings.
Oh, no.
That's a thing that's happening these days.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Again.
The Burnham book business, part of what makes that work, first of all, they have to make it work. I think you can't, it's a real tricky situation here to have two people in a relationship and then
It's a real kick in the floor jock.
one person is, going against doing all sorts of conceivably terrible things, depending on what your perspective is. But the reason why I think that they make it work is that both of their positions are defensible. You might be able to make more and better arguments for one side or the other, right? I tend to lean on Burnham's side. Maybe I'm just brainwashed by Starfleet. I don't know, but
You might be.
But I found the logic of of Burnham's argument and the people who sided with her to be the better argument. But Book's position is not an unreasonable position, right? It may not be the right position. You could argue that it's not the right way to go about things, but at least for Book, we don't know 100% about Ruan Tarak Tuktak Tik-Tok Ruan Tarkin.
Gargman Nargarg.
Tarkin.
Tarka?
God damn.
Tarkin.
God, I said goddamn.
goddamn.
Tarka, we don't know exactly, the how good or bad his reasoning ultimately is going to turn out to be. I'm guessing it'll probably turn out to be at the very least highly sympathetic. But
That's so, I don't know. It was something really condescending. It's like, I'm sure he's very sympathetic.
well, I mean, I don't think it's going to turn out that he's like a total piece of shit.
Yeah.
Right. It's unlikely that he's going to be the evil mustache twirling thing. It'll be a lost lover, or a lost child, or something. There'll be some reason why similar to like in Deep Space Nine when
Probably sees booking himself or something.
well, like there's like Odo, or at least a version of Odo does some stuff where it's fucked up, but you also understand why he did it, kind of thing, right? So I think it might be that kind of thing. But Book is the character that we already have a connection to, so we can be sympathetic. It's similar in some ways to Captain America: Civil War, right? Part of what made that movie work is that both sides of the argument, even if you favored one or the other, they weren't like completely crazy. Like there wasn't like a stupid argument and like a really good argument. They were both kind of difficult choice type arguments, and that's the situation we have here. So I think that's cool.
My brain just totally tripped over itself. What were you talking about?
I was making a series of clever, insightful points.
You did, and I know, and one of them struck a nerve that I wanted, not a bad nerve, a good nerve. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. I want to comment on that.
Maybe the point was so good that I accidentally severed that nerve.
you might have done that. You were saying something about Stamets. Oh no, you're saying about Book, how Book is sympathetic.
Yes.
Okay, that reminded me. That reminded me of the scene right after the opening, when Burnham goes up, and then there's Stamets and Saru there, and it's so important. First, when Saru says that we support you, because it's like whenever that's really important to say, because when Burnham's in the position where she's being shit on, basically, and everyone's shitting on you. Not only is she being shit on, she's being pulled in different directions from Rillick and Vance. So, and it was because
and her own heart,
exactly, which comes to leads to Stamets in a second, and this is all because of a situation that nobody really should have been able to predict. It's one of those nobody's fault situations.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's when and everyone's stressing out and like sort of, she's feeling it, right? But it's so important to have at least just one person tell you that they understand and that they're with you. And I think it's easy to underestimate how important that is, because like, it doesn't matter how much confidence someone has. At some point, they like to know, I think, that at least one fucking person out there is like on their side, being like, no, you are doing the best you can, or whatever. It just kind of makes it, it keeps people from quitting or rebelling, and it helps people go on.
And it's nice.
And it's nice. By the way, it's kind of fucked up that they're basically asking Burnham to behave in the way that got her in trouble at the very start of the first season, to deliberately disobey orders to do what she knows is right.
Well, again, a semantic point. Vance specifically tells her, don't disobey, do it within the confines of your order, but he's saying you have latitude here because she didn't specify. She just told you, go find this information. She didn't specify.
But he also said, I'm not going to have your back if this blows up in your face.
Yeah.
So basically. Yeah. So really could be like, you're doing that Burnham thing again. She's putting a lot at risk because she has a history. They're asking, she's
a Kirk style captain.
He
would do the same thing.
Yeah, and then there's no thank yous for any of it. They're basically but it's not Kirk style because, I guess Kirk has a reputation, but she had she got court-martialed and shit, and they're basically asking her to they're saying, break the rules, don't break the Starfleet rules, but go against the shit, and you might be a scapegoat when all this is said and done.
Yeah,
but I'm sorry, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna say you're right, and it's one of those. I think another thing that's similar to Kirk is, as long as in the end result works out in our favor, then we'll be cool with it.
And justify the means. I don't think that's very Star Trek.
Well, she's willing to take that risk because a lot of times they do that.
They do what?
They do that.
They do that.
Kirk does that. Picard does that. Sisko definitely does it. The question is about the people making those decisions are you willing to take that risk knowing that you will be fucked over if it doesn't work out? Right. And sometimes they portray that as they have so much faith in what they're doing, they're willing to do it. And other times they're not even sure it's the right thing to do, but they need to do something. Yeah. It comes in different flavors.
When you were talking about Book being sympathetic, that's when the line Stamets gave afterward, which was really important too, when he just says that what did he say? We hope Book is all right, basically.
Yes. We hope you're all right. And we hope Book is all right.
We hope Book is okay. And that's important too, because obviously Burnham loves Book, and along the lines of being shit on in every direction, she's also probably questioning herself for believing in him a little bit. She believes in him, but she probably, part of her is also, it's hard to be confident about that stuff when shit like that goes down. And so Stamets, he's almost saying, first of all, he's saying it's not your fault, but then he's also kind of saying Book deserves love too. He's not a bad person.
And it gets back to the idea that they stress repeatedly in this episode, multiple people,
people
like when she's having that conversation with Tarka, she's basically saying, look, I understand why you're doing this, which you can transfer by the transitive property over to Book, right? In other words, the action is not crazy, right? There is a rationality to it, and people recognize that. And the writers are making sure that multiple characters are making that point, either about Tarka or Book or both of them together, that it's fucked up what they're doing, but it's understandable, at least from what we know of Book. His planet got blown up, right? So
yeah, Tarka is, and that's the thing. that's the thing.
Hey, man.
That's the thing.
What?
Book is sympathetic because we know what went on with him. We know like what's guiding him. Tarka seems like he's, this pompous asshole, right? And he won't even he won't communicate what he's going through. So Tarka's going to get a lot of less leeway, probably.
He's going to get a lot less weed.
You got a lot less weed, man. Tarka's going to get a lot less weed when this is over, man.
You can just replicate it.
Here's my record. I just bought it.
Can you just replicate weed?
I'm sure you can. Maybe snake leaf is harder to replicate. That's why they like snake leaf.
That's why they like it, because it's so...
Yeah. Or snake mushrooms, or snake acid, or snake
ass.
Snake DMT, snake AMT.
Snake rake.
Snake heroin.
Snake jazz.
Snake jazz.
Snake jazz.
Really did the whole like tricky thing at the beginning when she goes like, I'll ask you both just once. Did you have any idea that this was coming? And she did the sneaky thing where she goes, Admiral, I'll ask you both just once. Did you have any idea this was coming? And they're like, oh, no, of course we don't. She's like, how did you have no idea this was coming?
I know, it sounded like
there's no way to win that situation.
It was like growing up with my dad.
Really? Oh man.
It's like, he's sneaky lawyer tricks.
There's no way to win that. But
both of those questions are good questions to ask. Again, it all works because we sympathize with both Vance and Burnham, but Rillick is asking the correct questions.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's right.
It's at 100%. It's like, well, how the fuck did you not know this was coming?
Yeah,
we can still believe that it is no one's fault in that sense, that they didn't really have a way to know that it was coming, but still understand that can also be a problem that they didn't know.
It's such a tricky scenario when you get fucked over because of what somebody else does, because immediately everyone's trying to like find a way to fix it, and that involves finding blame and all this stuff. And it's like, and it's kind of like, man, if they like, in the end, people make their own fucking decisions. So Culber, this is really interesting. Culber. Culber is stressed because he couldn't control Book's actions, right?
Yeah.
Rillick is getting mad at Vance and Burnham because they weren't able to see it coming or control it. But Culber was mad at himself because he specifically couldn't keep him from doing it.
He couldn't help him.
He couldn't help him, and they didn't see it coming. But then Stamets goes like, you can't be responsible for other people's actions. And then Rillick seemed to have a different opinion. She was like, well, you can be a little bit responsible for, and I like the Stamets' view better. It's just like, come on, how much shit you really going to give me for this?
But they're also different contexts, because the Stamets context is the humanistic context, like just the generic interacting with other human beings in the world context. Yeah. Whereas Rillick's context is in the hierarchical setup of Starfleet, right, and the Federation, and just that idea that you as a superior officer, you have some responsibility over the actions of the people below you. You can argue whether or not that is a reasonable system to have, given what we know about humans, but it's also the context of that.
So when getting a job, I imagine one of the first things you want to make sure is that you're not unpredictable. You have to be very predictable in a certain sense. This is just what I'm talking about.
Or delightfully unpredictable periodically, just to keep people a little bit off their feet.
Just plain delightful.
Just have it's delightful. What's that song? It's like, it's delubly, it's delobly, it's delovely. Delovely. Oh, yeah.
Culber, another point regarding your point about Culber is he is mad that he was not able to, in his view, help Book. We also can interpret that ipso facto by implication. We can interpret that as him believing that had he, whatever help he had to provide to Book would have prevented Book from doing this. And that's, I think, an incorrect presumption to make, right? He thinks if I had said the right thing, if I had provided the right tools for Book to resolve his issues, he would not have done this. And he may be correct, but he also may be incorrect. Maybe he did help Book.
Yeah.
And that's another thing they could have explored. I'm guessing they probably won't, but it could have been that Book became more resolved to do something if he had the opportunity to do it because of his conversations with Culber. The mechanisms of healing that people have do not guarantee that they will behave in the ways you want them to behave,
right?
Which is what you were saying. But I just thought it was kind of interesting to think about that. We can assume that we know what Culber's belief is, that he's doing this because he's still fucked up, as opposed to Book's doing this because Book is on some path to healing, and that's his chosen path for healing.
Yeah. You just kind of want to say, like, man's planet blew up. Like, shit happens. This is fucking everyone over, you know?
Any other major points? It's about odds and ends time. Major sophisticated points.
I mean,
our listeners
no
like
major
sophisticated points.
Erdl.
Did I do that?
I have some odds and ends, but
Okay. Well, I'll start the odds and ends. How's that?
no.
The odds and ends feature.
Oh.
For new listeners, if it isn't apparent, if it wouldn't be patently apparent by the content of this next section, we usually conclude the episode with a few bits and pieces,
some nooks and crannies.
The smaller points that don't necessarily form one of the as you've
cogent
listened to this
thought.
podcast, you've listened to a litany of highly sophisticated and clever points. Now here's where we just pop out some of the ridiculous stuff.
Sophisticated. Major mustard.
I try to insert
like the way
my
you
odds
talk
and
too.
ends throughout the episode.
Yeah,
so
just
you
exactly.
get my
Just popping them in
senseless interjections.
No, but that's
throughout.
but it's an integrated interjection. So
Integrated
I
interjection.
integrate
it
it. I
fits
do
in that way.
integrate it.
Yeah, it's hard to integrate.
The main
I'm
thing.
saying it's important to try to do that.
The main thing.
As opposed to just smattering them out at the end. Sorry.
It's an improvisational integration.
Yes.
The main thing I wanted to point out was I loved, and I think this was a really important and good choice they made here. I think two choices. First choice.
The choice to live.
The first choice is that the monster man that Owu has to fight.
Oh yeah.
That
Monster Man.
That they didn't. They in a previous Star Trek, perhaps, certainly in a lot of other shows, certainly in a lot of sci-fi shows. In this scenario where somebody has to fight somebody in order to advance the plot, the person they're fighting would be some roided out sort of monster man with
with his genitals in his knee.
crazy muscles and maybe even some
That was a Star
contraptions.
Trek
or something.
6 reference.
This guy is just a tall, goofy looking, blue collar looking type guy.
Just some guy.
Basically looks like a farm boy in overalls or something. So I like that. I thought that really worked well for the world building here. It didn't take you out of it.
Yeah.
He looked like a guy who was just going to show up at a bar and you try to win some money clobbering some people, right? The other thing I liked is that his manager, this is Star Trek. This is in the year, 3100 something, right? And this guy's in addition to this guy just being like fresh off the farm, his little manager or whatever, his little compatriot is just like an Italian guy from New York. He's just like an Italian guy in like a leather jacket. I don't know if the term Guido is offensive. It quite likely is.
It seems like it must be.
And I apologize if it is, but that's the term that comes up.
It's probably the least offensive term you could use.
It's no doubt it's an offensive stereotype, and I don't want to continue that. But I will because by lack of another term.
I think you could say a lot worse thing.
But he is he's just a guy in a leather jacket with like close cropped hair, and he's all like, hey jerky, what are you doing there, jerky? But I loved it. To me, it wasn't an error. And it's same thing with those ridiculous Orion Syndicate rejects. Because, I'm sure some people are commenting that their makeup was stupid or their costumes are stupid or what's wrong with the Star Trek producers. And I'm like, they have some of the most expensive and sophisticated alien prosthetics and stuff in this episode. They can do it. They did this. They dressed these people up like this on purpose because they wanted us to be like, these are some like obnoxious, horrible, these are ridiculous people that have just shown up.
Space dweebs.
Creepy space dweebs.
I was going back to the hot take I made earlier, which is I think Tarka is becoming
hot in terms of temperature or in terms of spiciness?
As in pants. Hot pants.
Like Tarka's getting hot.
So like short, tight pants, possibly pink, but they don't have to be.
He had some fun lines, like when he said, this was my favorite, one of my favorite fun, complicated sentences that was said in the episode. He goes, given the obsolete kernel patches on the translators he was hacking, I wouldn't put any faith in Mr. Mazzaro's judgment of what technology can or cannot do. I like that sentence.
Right.
That was a cool sentence.
Was he dissing him, or was he saying, I don't know what to expect?
I think he was dissing on it because remember they were talking about the divorce scanner when they walk into the room, and I think Mazzaro said something about how they check out my divorce scanners or something. But anyways, Tarka comes back. He says that's when he says this couldn't pick a Beta Z standing all alone in an Easter cage, which was like they were like, who's this fucking guy? But he was basically letting him know that I'm no fool. You can't fuck with me. And then when it comes to this smarty pants stuff, and so he was dissing on his technology and using that as a way to stuff. So I don't know, it's kind of fun. When OO's like calling him out, he goes, "Okay, you're boring me. Go stand somewhere else." Now that made him seem vulnerable.
Yeah,
you know?
because he only said that at the point where she said, somebody you love. Doing this for somebody you love.
And when he was talking about the varying degrees of loss, how his problems are harder than others, it might make him look less likable because he's doing the whole like, nobody gets me kind of thing. So on the one hand, you want to tell him to suck it up a little bit, but on the other hand, he's just like the rest of us. It makes him more relatable. I think it makes him more relatable.
He definitely becomes more sympathetic in this episode, which is a surprising turn given the events of the previous episodes, where you kind of are getting increasingly like more annoyed with this fella because he's stealing our book. He's stealing away our book.
When they first seen with him and Book, when he's asking him like, tell me how's this stuff works, or how's my spore drive working? How's it going? And Book's like, it's fine, whatever. And he's all probing him because it's hard to tell if he wants praise or if he's actually specifically he's trying to like get data to make it better.
Yeah.
But then when Book says, it'll help us get to the DMA, that's all that matters to me. And Tarka's like, can't fault your honesty. It's once again, he's like being very logical. It's like, I want to be pissed off that he's not giving me a good answer, but he's doing he just seems like a more real sort of character.
But we must remind ourselves of what we thought early on in the season, which is that he's clearly a manipulative person.
He is.
So
it's true.
Even in his conversation with Oo, it's tricky to know for sure whether he's trying to manipulate her or not. I kind of feel like maybe not. Maybe they were trying to show us a little bit more real Tarka there. That's the vibe I got from how they were presenting the information.
He definitely has a manipulative aspect, but I think this was showing a little more real.
And the other tricky thing is that when he's talking to Book, fundamentally, he's trying to make Book feel better about what Book's doing. He senses stress on Book's part because of the situation with Burnham and just in general, what they're doing. And the advice he's giving to Book is advice that's designed to make Book feel better about the situation. And you could say, he just wants to make Book feel better. On the other hand, you could also say he needs Book to feel better because he wants this guy they're not there yet. They haven't accomplished what they're trying to accomplish.
Right. And it doesn't seem like he's doing it for some cynical purpose. It seems like he's doing it because throughout sort of these relatable emotional despair, or delusion or whatever. But yeah, he does it when he goes to Book, he gets sacrifices. Book's all bummed out. He's like, sacrifice. No, Book had just stolen the thingy, or won the thingy, the isolinium, and so he's trying to make him feel better. Said sacrifice is always heavy, and they're doing it for the right reason should help. It never does. I mean, the way that was worded, it seems like a sympathetic sort of thing. Tarka he's an enigma. Well, this is all making him seem more relatable, and yes, he still is manipulative, but it's showing that he acts better than others. I mean, that's how he was introduced to us, as he was act like he was better than everybody. But he's actually struggling with this probably harder than most people. Was what it seems like.
And it's all going to come down to what we find out by the end of the season, right? Because I do think they could go a number of different ways. We'll see. Right, this is a season structured such that watching it over again, I think is going to have quite a lot of value and utility.
Yeah, I noticed that was a pretty cool sentence too.
because there's a bit of a mystery going on. We're finding out what's going on, and so going back and viewing it with the knowledge we have once the season concludes, we might view the things Tarka is doing a little bit differently, and some of the other characters as well. We shall see.
Where did Tarka get all that latinum when he was talking about money cost won't be an issue? Where do you get all that latinum?
I don't know. He seems like a rich guy from all his science stuff. I don't
think
know.
It's from his science stuff?
It's always confusing in Star Trek because it's like, do you work from Starfleet and get nothing, or do you get credits, or do you get latinum on the side?
He's from Ryza.
He's latinum
He's from
on the
Ryza.
Should call him Latinum on the side. That should be the name of the band, right? right.
Yeah.
I was thinking this band name, you know.
Yeah.
You know, people play that game where it's like, yeah, this is a good band name. you
Yeah.
know?
It's a
What
does he play,
It's
saxophone?
classic game.
I don't play that game very
He plays a Ryzen saxophone.
Oh,
Ryzen
shit.
saxophone.
It's made out
It's
of
exactly the same as a regular saxophone.
No, except it's made out of a snake.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah.
That's
So
true.
it's made out of the snake they squeeze snake cocaine out of.
So, Snake Cane.
Snake cocaine. The odds and ends.
Why when Stamets just talking about, you know, he's telling through the scene with Burnham and Saru and Zora's there, and Zora goes like, why do they bother showing Zora tell Stamets that she'll do the tedious work?
Because they're friends now.
Well, so
She's trying to be nice to him.
so that's what I was wondering. Is she trying to be? Does she extra like Stamets more than other people, or is she trying to? Do you think she's trying to prove?
I don't think anybody really likes Stamets.
Do you think she's kind of like secretly saying, you know, fuck you for thinking I'm an asshole. See how nice I'm being? Kind of like when people say like, I'll pray for you instead of like, I think you're a stupid jerk. You know?
I think if you were Zora, that's what I would think. But I think Zora, I think she's just trying to be nice.
So do you think do you think she's trying to prove herself to him, or do you think it's just to show that they're friends now? They're not. There's no hard feelings. It's slip slap under the bim jam.
It's isolinear rods under the
I don't think I could have said it better
rectilinear
myself,
manifold.
Rectilinear.
Yeah,
manifold.
rectilinear.
Jesse couldn't have said it better himself.
Odds and ends. Last odds and ends. Wrapping it up.
There was a very appropriate use of "That's an Order." It was the most appropriate use I've ever seen.
In all of Star Trek?
In all
of television?
Yeah, in all of television.
Are you talking about Vance?
Yeah, because at the beginning when Rillick's all chewing him out, Rillick says we have to prepare for first contact, provided
Prepare ship for ludicrous speed.
Yes, provided our rogue association doesn't beat us to it. And Vance goes, I agree. You have
Our rogue associates.
That's what I said.
You said our rogue association.
I didn't say that.
All right.
Well, the play back the tape and we'll find out. Now, this isn't, but Vance goes, I agree. You have your orders, Captain Burnham. Dismiss. Now, that's not what I was referring to, but he says you have your orders.
Mm-hmm. She already has her orders.
She already has an order.
From Rillick.
And then later on, when Vance is given the lowdown of the real deal, he says, I can take a page out of her own book and encourage you as one of the most creative and adept officers in my service to do everything you can to stop them within the parameters of the mission you were given. You find a way, Captain Burner. That's also an order. So it was related. It was related, and it was a legit order, and it was related. It was like he's saying, you had your orders earlier, but now you got these other cheeky little orders. And it wasn't like, you let me die so you can live. That's an order, you know.
For newer listeners, Dan has sort of an ongoing issue with the misapplication of the phrase "that's an order" in situations where he argues it's inappropriate. So to learn more about that, just go listen to most of our previous 100 or so episodes. He mentions it frequently.
I'm sure I have a few other things I rail on about consistently.
All right, I think that should probably conclude our discussion.
I just wanted Burnham sounded like a Valley Girl when she did the wow spices things up. But isn't that how the rest of the world generally sees Americans as all sounding like Valley Girls?
Probably. I don't know. It's an assumption, but write in and let us know it. Feedback at itsgotStarTrek.com. I did like that part with Burnham. I liked Burnham acting goofy. All right.
Yeah, I did too.
So yes,
it was a good episode.
Feedback at itsgotStarTrek.com.
I liked it.
It was a good episode.
Twitter, Instagram, etc. It's at It's Got Star Trek. Follow us there for all sorts of clever, fun times. Facebook, YouTube. All the podcast
YouTube.
players.
You said it like YouTube.
Them tube. Me tube. The old Apple Podcasts and the Google Podcasts, and you tell your friends and you rate and review, and you do all the things that podcast audiences are expected to do in the social contract that exists between podcasts producers and the podcast audience. And one of the things of that contract on the producer side is produce high quality content, or at least, good enough content on a weekly basis or a regular basis.
Passable content.
And then on the audience side, it's to go spend as much time as possible going to every website and every podcast provider and rating and reviewing.
This is the way things are.
This is the way
things are.
This,
I know.
It is now.
It is known. We didn't mention how there was all those Haas sayings that he had throughout the episode that were awesome. But did you notice that Burnham made a reference to the Emperor's new clothes?
Yes.
And that's kind of like, is that like a meta joke? Like they're saying all these things we don't understand. Now she's saying something that they would never understand.
I don't know, because I think I was wondering if it was a term a phrase that was associated with that particular game of poker, which again, yes, good point. Before we go, those poker cards were awesome.
Yeah,
if you go online and zoom in, there was a Cardassian king. They're just like a few different aliens, races or species represented on those cards.
Someone's gonna make some Leonian poker cards.
I hope they make those cards come out. But yeah, so that Burnham line, I don't know if that was meant to be a term that was related to that game, or if she was saying the Emperor's new clothes, but the Emperor's new clothes
was being naked. That's what the Emperor naked.
And then she's talking about Book, and then Book was naked,
yeah.
and so she fucked Book.
Yeah. So there's definitely a reference to that.
Well, yes, I understand all that. I'm just not sure exactly how we're supposed to interpret it. Regardless, it was fun. All right. Okay. So that little bit of excess over analysis concluded.
I'm done.
We'll be back for whatever the hell they call next week's episode. Episode 9.
He hates it so much.
I do hate it. Episode 9.
Does that happen on Lower Decks too, or just Discovery?
It happens on most of them. Some of them we get the episode names in time, but anyway. Star Trek.
That somehow made sense. I was like, yeah, I can see kind of what he's
Star Trek is cool. That's the stated position of this particular podcast. The It's Got Star Trek
Don't
podcast.
Speak for me.
Tune in next week.
Why would you make that presumption?
Tune in next week for more. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
I have missed you like a Cardassian misses cake.